The Browns coaching search rolls on, and it might be going on for quite some time after some recent news this week. I have a very far-fetched idea for a candidate they should interview, and they no longer belong to us, but two former Cleveland Browns are still beefing all these years later. We'll talk about all that coming up on another edition of our Browns Roundtable podcast here. Spencer German, Anthony Moeglin alongside as well. And we appreciate you coming to hang out with us to talk some Cleveland Browns, get the latest on everything going on with this football team. Much of what I just laid out. Do want to remind you to scan the QR code at the top of the video here. It should be on Meg's head or right above Meg's head.
I always point the wrong direction, but I think as I'm seeing it right now.
Yeah, well, right you know what though, because whenever I do this type of stuff in StreamYard, I always think I'm doing like my hand motions are on the right side away from my name, and then I realize that it's actually flipped later. So I don't know what's right and what's left.
It's above me somewhere,
but it's above Meg somewhere. It might flip to where it's actually above my head. I don't know, but look for the QR code, and you can scan it. And you can go to our website, brownsroundtable.com, which is the link or the URLs at the bottom as well. And you can join our space, be part of the community. Jump in those community posts. Tell us if we have stupid ideas, good ideas for trades and goofy things that we throw in there. Read our premium content as well. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our YouTube channel where most of you are watching this right now so that you can be part of the conversation every day with Megs and myself. Megs, I think the natural starting place obviously is the Browns coaching search and everything that's kind of going on with it.
Wait. Before we do Browns specific.
You got a non-Browns thing.
Before we do Browns specific coaching search, what was your immediate reaction? You started your media career in Buffalo, covered the Bills for a while. What was your immediate reaction to Sean McDermott getting the boot? And then follow up everything their damn owner said on I don't even know what day, Wednesday, about the entire situation.
Yeah, no, listen, this is actually a good place to start because it can feed into the Browns conversation, obviously a little bit as well, with another team joining the carousel of teams looking for coaches. Yeah, basically, it's basically just third of the league. So. I don't know. I'm kind of like caught in the middle of it because I'm still connected with so many people in Western New York from growing up there, and I know there's certainly a segment of the fan base that felt like maybe it was just time, right? Like he's fallen short in the playoffs enough, kind of like a Mike Tomlin situation and a John Harbaugh situation where it's like, all right, new voice, time for a new voice, fine. It seemed like though, and I tend to agree, it's the same way I felt about the Browns situation, honestly.
Yeah,
like. If you're going to fire one, how do you not fire both? Like the fact that Brandon Beane is still there, roster was flawed, didn't have receivers for one of the best quarterbacks in the league, one of the best quarterbacks of all time. Like that's an indictment on him too. And so, it's kind of about like where you point the blame and all that. I will say this though, like how that press conference went, it didn't even seem like Terry Pagula and Brandon Beane were really on the same page with much. Like Terry tried to defend Brandon about the Keon Coleman pick. He was like, that wasn't his pick. No. And then later, Brandon Beane was like, listen, I make all the picks, so it's always on me. And it was like, so do you guys even agree on anything? Like, and so I kind of was thinking, as much as I thought maybe they both should be fired if you're going to fire McDermott, because I think McDermott did squeeze a lot out of a roster that was flawed and had a lot of injury. I think he deserves credit for that. It's obvious based on his players' reactions that he's a good coach that they respected and treating people right and all those things, which this is all reasoning why I think he should be on the Browns list, which we could talk about. But I almost think having somebody left behind is maybe a good thing, because do you really want Terry Pagula running that search by himself with some of the stuff that he said? And if that's like the commentary he was going to deliver, and then he's got to go out and find a GM and a coach. Dude. So in some respects, I wonder if Bills fans are a little bit relieved that like there's somebody else in that room to help keep things on the tracks a little bit. But
it was like the first time I was like, that's like such a Browns thing. Like that whole press conference was like such a Browns thing. Like I was almost relieved. And as I've done a tour of I do some spot stuff for our Bills Roundtable page, and we were recording and talking about this.
Traitor.
And just was like in complete shock, and like the vibe over there is crazy because you go through this stretch where you think it's like Josh Allen's prime, and then you don't win anything, and now the coach leaves, and now they're staring at like they don't know who. Like it might be Brian Dable as like their best option. You're like, whoa. We've gone off the rails somewhere. But the point of the matter is like my first initial thought was exactly the same as when the Ravens fired Harbaugh, and I was like, oh, they actually did it. Like everyone's been talking about it, and similar to us too. Like, yep, they actually did it, and they're actually looking to start fresh. And frankly, Spence, I think that hurts the Browns a little bit because it just adds another job that's better than theirs, right? You know, you stack up all these jobs compared to Cleveland, and they're all like, this one's better, this one's better. Yeah, Steelers are better, Ravens are better. You know, the Bills are better spot for some of these coaches, and maybe it's going to impact who the Browns ultimately end up with.
Well, that's part of this conversation too, because you know we can joke about how that press conference went. It was like watching a car crash in slow motion almost, but at the same time, the Bills' job is still arguably the most attractive job out there because of the quarterback that you have. I think of the jobs that are left. And it probably still was it was probably still if all the jobs are still open of the 10, it was probably still one or two because it's either them or the Ravens, right? Because they actually have a quarterback in the room. Unless you think Lamar Jackson is just totally washed at this point, and maybe you do. Some people think that. So like, amidst all that, it's like, how are the Bills going to get people to come here with all this dysfunction? And it's like, well, do you know who their quarterback is? They're going to be just fine. Like they can pretty much get whoever they want because there's going to be people lining up to coach Josh Allen.
Do you think that there's a little, I don't know what side they fall on, but I'm going to say buyer's remorse from Kevin Stefanski and Harbaugh because they both signed, you know, with the Giants and Atlanta, and then the Bills job comes open. They're probably like, ooh, that was
I think Harbaugh's fine. Harbaugh seems like he's good in New York. He seemed like he was all about like the football history, and you know, he's also getting like everything he wants. It seems like they're giving him the keys to everything. Stefanski. Maybe a little bit like he's like, oh man, too bad this job opened up like 3 days after I signed my contract with Atlanta because I'd love to go coach that quarterback. But, you know, I think Stefanski's probably fine. I think he feels good about the situation. Mm-hmm. What's funny about Stefanski and then up in Atlanta is like, I feel like the Falcons are kind of where the Browns were when he got to Cleveland.
Yeah.
Really good young running back, offense with a lot of weapons. Quarterback, they have a young quarterback that they think might be the answer, but maybe he's not. And if he's not, like Stefanski will have a chance to find his next quarterback. And if he doesn't like that quarterback, by the way, he's also got Kirk Cousins there who can kind of be a bridge. And he's the best seasons of Kevin Stefanski's time as an offensive coordinator or calling plays was with Kirk. So like, there's a lot to like about that situation. It kind of is like a ball of clay. It's a ball of clay that's already like half molded for you. And it's just like, all right, we need you to like finish. If it's like a pot that you're making, like, all right, you got to formulate the rest of the pot and put the handles on it and then put it in the kiln and let it cook. Like it feels like they're pretty close. So I think he ended up in a fine situation for him. I also think he ended up honestly in the best situation for Browns fans because I know what Browns fans are going to say. They're going to be like, oh, I don't care where Kevin was going. He was gone anyway. But like, I know deep down, if he had ended up in Baltimore, if he had ended up in Pittsburgh, and he was playing you twice a year and sometimes beating you twice a year. Yeah. I know Browns fans would not have been happy about that. Like, let's just call it spade here. So for him to go to Atlanta, be in the NFC, you get to see him next year on the schedule, but then like you won't see him again for, 4 years or whatever. Like you don't have to worry about it so much. I think it's probably like the best case scenario for where he goes.
Man, we really have the NFC South. So we're getting Stefanski and Baker next year, which damn.
I don't want to get to that part of the conversation right now because
I know we kick that. Let's kick that can.
So here's I honestly want to ask you, was Sean available? Where does he fall in terms of like candidates that are still on the board for the Browns, guys that are still interested or that the Browns should be interested in? I know where I stand on it, but I want to know where you're at with Sean McDermott as a candidate for this.
So I think that it obviously is going to depend on the route they want to take. If they want to go with, and we talked about this last week, but like if they want to go with the up and coming play caller, right? And I think you have two clear options there with the young guys and Udinsky, and I'm not going to get it right.
Shieldhouse.
I spent all week doing it. Shieldhouse. So I think you have like two good options there. But if they want to go the more culture route and bring in an established guy, like, I think you and I were texting about it. Like that could be a guy that comes in immediately it makes you competitive in every week, right? I think the floor, McDermott's floor is really high. His ceiling probably not as high. But some of these young guys, their floor could be, at the very bottom. You don't know what they're going to be. Their ceiling could be Sean McVay, right? But it's like if you go the McDermott route, that means you're committing to good, right? You're committing to being a respectable team, being a good team, being like, an AFC North typical, tough, hard-nosed team, but you're going to win a lot of football games. And McDermott's proven that. He hasn't proven that he can get it done in the playoffs. He's also had some crazy circumstances, right? 13 seconds, the catch, the fumble. They could very well have an argument to still be playing on this Sunday, So I think he's a great coach from that perspective. He's got to be towards the top of the list, right? Like, if not 1 or 2, he's got to be 3 at the lowest, right? Like, he's got to be, his name has to be on the whiteboard right now of like, get him in for an interview as soon as possible.
Yeah. I think that's well said. I'll say for me, he basically like replaces John Harbaugh for me.
Definitely.
Where I'm like banging the drum saying, go get this guy. And here's the thing, like, I'm willing to acknowledge that it hasn't always been perfect with McDermott. Like, this year, the playoff loss wasn't on him, which is why people are so perplexed that he got fired. Because it's like there's a questionable call on like the catch interception with the Broncos. There was clearly a roster that was limited. Like, he kind of had some issues with like the team in general, and it was like, okay, he squeezed as much as he could out of that roster with a great quarterback. And they almost won that game. And if they had won that game, like, we're talking about this team maybe playing for a Super Bowl. So, like they're playing a rematch against the Patriots who they lost to once and beat once. And that's
like, crazy, man. The NFL is a cold world.
It is. But so, like, I don't like the circumstances of this year weren't on him. This wasn't a game I watched and said coaching was the problem. But there have been other games, the 13 seconds against Patrick Mahomes. He was criticized for that because of the way that he handled the kickoff afterwards. Like, people said he should have squibbed it. Time starts sooner. He sent like a deep kick and they got better field position and then they were able to get into the field goal range. Like, like there's been game management issues with him. Like, that has been evident that there's been some moments where he just hasn't sort of figured it out, or he's missed the mark on certain calls and things. And so I have to accept that. He's not a perfect coach by any stretch, but you see the responses from players. You see what he built Buffalo into. And let's face it, like, guys, Buffalo, before he got there, was basically in the same place Cleveland still is, right? Yeah. Like, Cleveland and Buffalo were always compared to each other. It's like, those two teams, those are like the football Siberias. You don't want to go there. They suck. Like, nobody cared. They both those teams were the butt of the joke all the time. Mm-hmm. And Sean McDermott goes to Buffalo, and yes, with the help of finding a franchise quarterback, he turned them into a perennial playoff and Super Bowl contender. They were in that conversation year over year over year over year. How many Browns fans would long for that? And you can throw, and that's the other thing. Like, you can throw it in my face, like, well, yeah, but he had a quarterback. Is he going to get that here? I get it, but here's the thing. Like, he was there before. You got to remember, he was there before Josh Allen. He broke the 17-year playoff drought in 2017
with Tyrod.
Josh Allen with Tyrod Taylor as his quarterback. The first 2 years of Josh Allen were not Josh Allen. Like, the Josh Allen that we know now is not the Josh Allen that he was those first couple of years. And that second year they made the playoffs with Josh Allen, but he only had like 20 touchdowns and like 9 interceptions. He threw for like 3,800 yards. I think it was. Like, he was not the same Josh Allen that he is now.
Yeah.
And so what I think that does show you is, like, if the Browns can nail a quarterback pick and they actually get the guy, like, he has the right temperament to manage that player and let that player grow and develop and become the franchise quarterback that you hope he can become. So he's worked with that caliber of player now. That's valuable. Yeah. So listen, I could wax poetic forever and ever about Sean McDermott. I think he's a damn good candidate. And I'm intrigued by some of those young guys, the Shieldhouse, the Udinsky, and what that brings to the table. I'm intrigued by the fact that they're offensive-minded, and I think in today's day and age, it's nice to have that. But we're also seeing a lot of defensive-minded coaches have success. It's not like the end of the world if you get that guy. And the thing that I think I feel more comfortable with Sean McDermott with is, like, he knows how to be the CEO role. He knows how to lead a locker room. That's the big piece that's missing. It's okay to admit, guys, like, Megs, you don't know. I don't know. We don't know how Udinski's going to be managing a locker room. We don't know. We've never seen it. He's never had to do it as a head coach.
Yeah.
And he's 30 years old. It doesn't mean he shouldn't get the job. It just means, like, there is a question there. It's like a big unknown. When you hire these guys for the first time, you're always taking that chance. But with McDermott, you know what he's going to do. You know what to expect. And so I appreciate that. I would sign up for Sean McDermott in a heartbeat. I really would.
I would have no, if it got down to, which is what it's going to feel like. I don't know. Maybe they do. It hasn't come out yet if they're interviewing him, at least as we're recording this. But if it come down to McDermott or the field, right? And you're like, yeah, I would absolutely sign up for it, right? Cleveland needs that, and whereas Buffalo on the other side, they probably want to go get a guy who they think's more offensive minded. I'm not saying it's Udinski or one of these young guys, but it is probably more offensive minded guy, somebody who's going to go and try to, hey, this is what we're missing. We need to go and we need to go win the Super Bowl now. Like now. Cleveland's not there, right? This is not surprise, breaking news. This is not a Super Bowl contending team in Cleveland. And they're like, hey, if we can get some stability, I'm totally with it. Like you said, same conversation with Harbaugh, and I'm absolutely I see it exactly the same way.
I'll say this too, because the other thing people say is like, well, if he wasn't good enough for Buffalo after 9 years and he fell short of the Super Bowl and that's why he's getting fired because he didn't win enough in the playoffs, why would we want him here to fall short? Guys, again, the Browns are just trying to get back to, like, being in that conversation.
Yeah.
Like, and I'll say this is a good example, I think. Anybody who's a Cavs fan in town, well, first of all, make sure you follow us at Cavs Roundtable as well. But if you're a Cavs fan, like, JB Bickerstaff was fired a couple years ago for Kenny Atkinson, right? And I think the big consensus on that move was JB Bickerstaff was the guy that took a team that had nothing from scratch and built it into, a perennial playoff team that was making the playoffs every year. And then they needed something new that was going to help them get over that hump. And we haven't seen Kenny do that yet, obviously, but they thought they needed a new leader to kind of get them over the hump. Even if McDermott is your JB Bickerstaff, if he's the guy that's going to get you to a point and then help you, and then you might have to bring somebody else in to help you make the leap, that's okay. That's okay. That's what Buffalo's doing right now. That's okay if that's how this all goes down. But people throw back at me like, well, I want to find the guy that's going to – I get that. But, like, sometimes, like, do we know that guy's 100% in this cycle? Do we know that they're going to find that guy? Like, do you trust the people in charge to find the guy that's going to take them to the Super Bowls right now? Like, in the meantime, if you don't trust them, doesn't it make sense to hire the guy that you've seen do it before and has, like, a little bit of experience with that in that realm, and then – you can worry about finding that next guy later if it doesn't work out. I have arguments for everything in terms of, like, why I think McDermott makes sense.
So here's a question. This is a question. I'm going to ask this because you're going to have a better touch to this than I, because I maybe wasn't as in tune as I probably should have been. I was a little bit younger. But could this be and let me just think this out. Could this be a very similar to, like, an Andy Reid situation where, hey, he does really well in one area, Philadelphia, really well, never gets over the hump, doesn't get over the hump, has great teams, doesn't get over the hump, goes and takes over a Kansas City team that in the year before he was hired, they went 2-14. In his first year in Kansas City, he goes 11-5. And then obviously gets the quarterback, gets Patrick Mahomes, rips off a couple Super Bowls, we know the story. But take the 4 Super Bowls away or whatever, 3 Super Bowls away, maybe give him 1, right? And Kansas City is probably signing up for that 11 out of 10 times, Like, could that be a similar situation? Or am I way off in thinking that?
I don't think you're way off. It's funny you bring up Andy Reid too, because Sean McDermott was on Andy Reid's staff.
Yeah.
In Philly. He was there from 2001 to 2010. That's what I was trying to look up the exact years when you were talking there. Yeah, so he has that connection in that, which is kind of funny. And that's also what's interesting to me is, like, everyone always points out, well, I don't want the retread coach. Like, why do I want this guy that failed? But they forget about, they're always pointing at, like, well, hey, hold on. Sorry, still getting over
Yeah,
this.
I'm going through the house. Hey, for those of you who don't watch and don't know, it's a war zone at the German house.
No, it's not as bad. It's really not as bad as it sounds. It was mostly just me. I think my wife avoided getting it. My son has some remnants of it. But anyway, back to what I was saying. Everyone points at like, oh, Josh McDaniels, like he failed. Why do I want Robert Saleh? He failed. Like they're gonna point at all these guys that failed. Nobody seems to point at the fact that like Andy Reid was a retread coach.
Yeah,
and Andy Reid's doing pretty damn good for himself.
Mike Vrabel's a retread coach.
Mike Vrabel's a retread coach. He's doing pretty damn good for himself.
Yeah.
So like everyone's always afraid, I think, of the retread or the failed coach that didn't work out at a team that was like on the brink of winning something. But then you realize like there's examples of these coaches also working out too. So yeah. I love that thought process on it. I've also seen people be like, why would he want to come to Cleveland? And I get like the loser's mentality with that. I get that Browns fans just think like no one wants to come here. Our situation sucks. And again, we already talked about it. It's probably not the most attractive job that's still out there by any stretch. It's probably lower on the list, all things considered, of the jobs that are left. But do I need to remind you? Like he also went to Buffalo. Mm-hmm. Not now. Like he's not going to Buffalo now. When he went to Buffalo when Buffalo was
at the lowest.
Right now, like turmoil, and they can't get out of their own way, and they can't win games, and Rex Ryan's being a clown over here talking about this. Like he went to that Buffalo, and then he turned him into this. So who's to say that he wouldn't embrace the opportunity to do it again? I don't know for sure. Like, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Like, no, I don't think the Browns is the most attractive job, but we need to get past this whole like, well, that guy's not going to come here because it's Cleveland. Like, I'm sure there are coaches that don't come here because it's Cleveland or they don't like the situation or whatever, or they have other options. But that doesn't mean every coach is going to do that. All it takes is one, and there's only 32 of these jobs.
Yeah, no, it's spot on. I do wonder, as we've talked now, it's like I've become more like excited about that as a thought, right? Because it just, I think what this team needs is just win some football games. And Jimmy even said that. Jimmy even said that like in his press conference. He's like, I don't want to be a team that goes to the playoffs in 20 and then goes in 23 and then the years in between are horrible, right? You need to find that stability. And I think that you get that. You probably get that with McDermott, right? Maybe you don't win the North every year, but maybe you're a wild card team. If he's here for 8 years, you're a wild card team at least, 6 out of the 8 years. You're like, yeah, that's what you're striving for. And then at some point that does get old, right?
Yeah.
Buffalo right now, but that's where Cleveland's at right now, just yearning for wins and yearning for playoff games.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, like two of the first moves that were made when McDermott got to Buffalo were signing Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer.
Yeah,
and those two guys basically became, like the foundation for his time there. I mean, Jordan Poyer was still back on the team this year.
And was like good this year too. Like
right. He played pretty well coming back. Like he was basically like in retirement. Like he wasn't playing, and then he came back out and played. Like
he was in Peru.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like it started with that, and it built into what they built it to. He built the culture there. Yeah, like, I think he can take what Kevin Stefanski started, because I think Kevin Stefanski was on the right track, at least in the early going, and start building this organization.
So here's the question.
I really like that as an idea. We'll see if the Browns do too.
Do you think that because it's kind of like a high school?
By the way, where it feels like he's going to end up? Really,
Baltimore,
Pittsburgh, because him and Mike Tomlin were teammates.
Yeah,
in college, and like he feels like
come on, man.
He's going to end up in Pittsburgh. Like that just feels like where he's going to end up. But that's what I'm saying. The Browns should get him. The Browns should snipe him before the Steelers get a chance.
I was dreaming.
Actually, I think the Steelers might hire Mike McCarthy. We'll see. But anyway. Continue.
Which would be wild. This may be like kind of like a high school type of thought, right? I think back to that word culture gets thrown around, and it's a big high school word, a big college word. How much of that do you think actually carries over, like from and just anecdote, like just your opinion, like when a new coach or when a coach leaves, some of the players stick around. Every one of these NFL teams is brand new every year, and that's the case everywhere. But like, how much of that, like, hey, it was maybe on the right track, probably should have done some things differently, but like some of the good stuff. Do you think some of the good stuff remains, in a locker room and in a team, or do you think that?
I mean, it's all about to me, culture is always about the people.
Yeah.
Which means it's mostly about the players for sure. Mm-hmm. But I think that starts with the coach. Like I think the coach sets that tone. So yeah, like a new coach comes in, like they have their own approach and their own way of doing things, where I'm sure they have to kind of like get the attention of the room, and guys have to like feel people out first. But, I think like if it's like Joe Bitonio, for example.
Yeah.
Joe Bitonio is a perfect culture building player. He might not be here next year, but like, that's kind of concerning, honestly, because like he took the torch from Joe Thomas. Mm-hmm. He was hoping to pass the torch to somebody else, maybe on the offensive line, but like now the offensive line's in shambles. Like, so I don't know. Like, you need those types of guys that can kind of carry over, like coach to coach, year to year, sort of set the tone. But all those guys are also important because like they can see through the bullshit. Like if a coach comes in and like they're like, I don't buy this guy. Like,
which is why the young 30-year-olds are scary, because like those guys are just young, dumb, and
right. They don't. They're trying these for the first time, and they have to be like as genuine as they can. Yeah, I don't know. I'll also say this because I think Browns fans are freaking out now because the Bills also showed interest in Udinski. I don't think they're.
I'm in that camp.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't think they're gonna hire Udinski.
Yeah.
There's too much at stake for them right now to hire a 30-year-old coach who's like never been a coach before. And also like their quarterback's gonna be the same age as their coach.
Crazy. Dude.
Is he gonna listen to him? Like, I mean, Josh Allen's seems like a pretty nice, like, cool dude, chill dude, but like they're gonna be the same age. I honestly think they end up hiring Dable.
Well, so what is that? What's that feeling like?
I think it's all because he knows how to like push Josh's buttons.
I know, but like, man,
for building Josh into who Josh is. I don't know.
Like, would that excite you as a Bills? Like, not that you're a Bills fan.
I'm glad you asked that because I texted a group chat I'm in today and I said, if they hire Dable, would you be okay with that? And these people were like, "Yep."
Really?
Yeah, they want Dable. They think it was a Giants problem. I don't know.
No way. Okay. All right. Well, more power to them. I think that would be. I don't know.
It is gonna be funny though if they hire Dable. Dable sucks. McDermott goes somewhere else and wins the Super Bowl.
And they like
the revisionist history of that will be.
They like open their brand new stadium with Dable and they're all excited, and then they throw up a 4-13. They trade Josh Allen to somebody. Josh Allen goes and they do it's the Stafford thing. It's
also. Can I say this too? Like.
Say it.
There is just some like bad luck with running into Patrick Mahomes every damn playoffs. I know he wasn't there this year, but like most of those losses in the playoffs are to the Chiefs, and it's like when you lose to the guy that everyone's calling the best quarterback in football, like, can you really be that mad?
Germ, if they would have got average Josh Allen on Sunday, they beat the Broncos by 10. If they got good Josh Allen, they beat him by 14. If they got great Josh Allen, they win by 21. Instead, they got bad Josh Allen. They still score 30, and they lose on a crazy catch. If, like you said, if they win that game, Sean McDermott is not only the coach, we are talking about them going to the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl.
Yeah. Terry Pagula was asked, like, if they win that game, is he still fired after the season? And he was like, I don't like to speculate on
that guy. That guy was off his
rock. It was like, I mean, at least Steve Biscotti gave you like an answer, right?
Yeah.
He was like one more week.
That's the thing. You can't sit there, but you can't sit there and say that the Bills, like that was Biscotti saying they were going to get boat raced by the Texans.
Well, it was also him saying like we had pretty much had our minds made up that this is probably the end for us.
But you couldn't.
It sounded like with Pagula, he was just like, "All right, it's time."
There's a real world where
he didn't even lose.
Yeah, where they go to the Super Bowl this year. That's
crazy.
That's a real.
Anyway,
if we thought we had it bad in Cleveland, those Buffalo.
Yeah,
fans,
I mean that was a pretty crazy press conference.
Throw a chicken wing out for one of them.
Anyway, So I think we've I don't want to say beaten a dead horse because we did talk about a bunch of different angles. But I do think we've sort of exhausted the McDermott part of this, where I certainly would take him. It sounds like you would certainly take him.
Definitely.
There are some latest developments with the Brown search. Most notably, of course, excuse me, I have like the hiccups here. I don't know what's going on with me today.
I'm telling you, war zone. It's a war zone.
Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniel dropped out of the race to be the Browns' next head coach because, he was out interviewing for the Chargers job. And so that's one less candidate that's coming in for an in-person interview, one less candidate the Browns have on their docket to sort of talk to hire. And it was interesting because like there was sort of mixed opinions on McDaniel. There's a lot of people I think that said they would take Mike McDaniel. They liked him as an option, especially because the experience factor. And there were other people who were like, great X's and O's guy, but I don't want him anywhere near my football team. Yeah. The biggest thing though is that like this does throw a wrench into the search because Mike McDaniel was supposed to be, at least as of now, one of 2 candidates they interviewed that fulfilled the Rooney Rule. You know, I think they were actually serious about considering him. Like it wasn't just like a fluke thing, but you obviously have to fulfill the Rooney Rule to make a hire. And so that basically means like this thing isn't people who think like, oh, Udinski's in the building Friday, don't let him leave. Like that's not going to work. They haven't even interviewed one candidate yet who's like of a minority background because Nate Scheelhaus is the other one. And Nate Scheelhaus is coming in on Monday or next week. I shouldn't say just Monday, but sometime next week. So this was always going to go in the next week, but now it's about like it might go even deeper into the week, depending on what they do about a second candidate that fulfills the Rooney Rule. And this is kind of the downside of the Rooney Rule is like you get teams doing like sham interviews and whatnot. Yeah. But you know, I don't know how you feel about missing out on McDaniel, but that was an sort of wrinkle that got thrown into the conversation.
I was honestly surprised about the McDaniel excitement. I did not fall into that category at all. I think that, you know, we discussed it a little bit. And yes, his team continued to play for him at least the end of this year, but like they proved that time and time again, like, you know, when the chips were down and they were playing in big games, that they just couldn't show up. They just didn't show up. And that's been too much of what Cleveland has been, right? Mm-hmm. Mike McDaniel wasn't going to Pittsburgh and winning. Guess what? We need somebody that goes to Pittsburgh and wins football games. Like, period, full stop, end of story. Like, that needs to be the reality. We need
I like that.
We need coaches that can go to Baltimore and win. Like, that's not easy to do. And like McDaniel's proven that, like, hey, when things are perfect, he's rolling. When he's got Devon Achane rolling, he's got Tua throwing on time, and he's got Jalen Waddle and Tyreek running and running by guys, he can put up points. But his teams have shown that when in the biggest moments that they don't show up. And I could just imagine, I just saw it in my head. Like sometimes common sense prevails and you're like, yeah, they announced the hiring of Mike McDaniel and he rolls out. The first picture you see is him in that stupid ass shirt he was wearing that said like, we wish it was colder. And it's like, yeah, every game that the Browns lose when it's 30 degrees, it'd be that dumb shirt and be like, yeah, like he's wearing his capris on the sidelines and he's got the aviators. Like that doesn't like that doesn't, I don't know. Yeah. To me, that just doesn't fly, you know? And I
get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Honestly, like I think ending up in LA is probably a good spot for him.
It's like perfect.
And he gets to just be an OC and do X's and O's.
And he gets it with Justin Herbert too. Like
I will say, because I don't know if this was like him spurning the Browns per se, because everyone made it seem that way because it was reported as he's canceling his interview with the Browns. But like I think he was supposed to interview with the Ravens again. And I think he was supposed to interview with somebody else again, like the Raiders maybe. So like he had a couple other interviews for head coaching jobs lined up.
And then it came out like an hour later. Like
right. He just decided like, okay, I'm not taking these. But it was only reported as like, oh, he's not going to talk to the Browns. It was
like, Schefter tweeted he hates Cleveland, so he's
right. And so I want to give him the benefit of the doubt and say I don't know that it was just straight up that. Mm-hmm. Like he could have been legitimately interested. But what I will say is this: I think every one of these coaches or coaching candidates knows like you only really get 2 shots at this. There aren't a lot of. Name me the coaches that have had 3 opportunities to be a head coach. There's probably some out there that I don't know, but off the top of my head, like I can't really think of any. I mean, Bill Belichick's an exception because he got the Jets job and then quit before he even coached a game, right? Like, so technically he had 3 jobs. But you know, like there aren't a lot of those guys.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm sure if you're Mike McDaniel and you just left Miami and it didn't go well there, do you want to take another job like immediately as a head coach, knowing that like if it doesn't work out with this job, now you're probably never getting a head coach opportunity again? Or do you want to go somewhere and kind of like cleanse yourself for a year or 2 and then like get that second opportunity and maybe you get a better opportunity? Because again, it might not be I would never coach Cleveland thing, but it might be like Cleveland's not really in the best spot right now. They don't have a good pick to get like a quarterback that I want to work with. So maybe I should just stay away and take this opportunity somewhere else. So I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt on that. I don't know all the details, like what he was looking for, what he wanted, but it does feel like he kind of ended up in a good spot. You want to know who I think the Browns should talk to?
This was the big one. You were going to ruffle some feathers, is what you said.
I'm sure this is going to ruffle a lot of feathers. I think you legitimately should invite Deion Sanders out for in-person conversation.
Good night. What?
I'm just saying.
Why?
So here's the thing. We know that a lot of times these coaching search interviews are like a fact-finding mission, right? It's like, hey, talk to me about like how you would do this. Talk to me about how you view this or whatever. We talked about that with Harbaugh, right? Like, hey, you got to at least get Harbaugh in the building and have a conversation with him to pick his brain on how he sees football, right? Yeah. Like, even if he doesn't want the job or take the job, you at least get to have a conversation with him, and there's value in that. Like a lot of teams use these as those types of things. If the plan is going to end up being you have Shedeur this year as your starter, don't you want to like sit down and have a conversation with Deion and like get a better sense of how what
makes him tick?
How would you set your son up for success at the NFL level? Like what does he need? You coached him for all those years. How do we do this? How can we make the Browns more successful? Like, what would your vision be for this team with Shedeur Sanders as your quarterback? Your son is your quarterback. And it doesn't mean he has to get the job. It doesn't even mean that he would even want the job. But you at least get to have that conversation. You make it like a formal thing. And the added bonus in this is like you do get the Rooney Rule fulfilled because you would have a second minority candidate in there. I just think like it kind of kills two birds with one stone. Yeah. But it's also something that seems like it needs to happen because I don't know like what conversations have been had with Deion Sanders behind the scenes, but I know like it's hot and heavy pre-draft process. You're scouting guys, you're making all these trips. Like I don't know that they're like sitting down and having like in-depth conversations with Deion Sanders, who's coaching his own team, by the way.
Yeah.
And talking through like, hey, so tell us about Shedeur. What do we need to know? Like you could have a more detailed conversation in your building, in the aura of it being like, hey, what if we made you head coach? Like, what would you want to do?
Yeah.
And then you get some information. And if you guys don't if it doesn't end up being him getting the job, that's okay. But you at least have the conversation.
Is it worth and maybe it's because we live in this world, but is it worth the noise to do that? Like, hey.
Probably not, but when has it ever stopped the Browns?
Yeah, true. Good point.
They traded for Deshaun Watson, for God's sake.
Good point. That's a good point. It's a fair point. I don't know, but I didn't expect
I will say this. Deion's a smart guy.
Yeah.
He probably would see right through it and not really want to do that. Like he'd be like, if you just want to talk to me about Shedeur, just like come talk to me. Like he would drop his line of like, I'm not hard to find.
I'm not hard to find.
Yeah, he'd be like, I'm not hard to find. Like he'd be like, just come find me.
Yeah.
So I'm sure Deion would be like, I'm not flying all the way out there just to have a conversation about this when I know you don't really want me to be the head coach. Yeah. But in the spirit of like having that conversation, inviting him and getting more of a idea of what they can do.
He wows them. He sells them. They hire him.
I don't hate that idea. I don't hate that idea because again, it certainly feels right now like Shedeur is going to be part of the quarterback plan next year, whether it's they dub him the starter day one or he has to compete for it or whatever. And so if they're trying to sort of bridge this gap until they can maybe draft another guy, what can you do to try to set him up for success and make it work so that maybe you don't need to draft a quarterback? It's just an idea. It's off the wall. It's off the wall. I get it.
It's not okay.
I'm just saying.
It is not where I expected you to go when you're going ruffle some feathers. And it's not the worst thing I've ever heard. I've heard worse. Well, here it's not the worst. It's not the last. It's not the
last. What's the worst take I've ever had? Do you know?
I don't know. We've had some bad. I throw you into that. I've had some bad ones.
I'm sure I've had bad ones that you
on this very show.
Absolutely stupid, but
that's not. It's not a horrible.
Probably my Ohio State takes because I thought we talked to Ohio State before we recorded. And I said this new kicker's gonna be better than Fielding. You probably think that takes crazy.
It's just factually incorrect. The same kicker.
He's better. He can hit 50-yarders. Fielding couldn't do that.
Okay, he hits 50-yarders but misses 40-yarders. Give me the guy who hits 40-yarders. I'd rather have Fielding.
I want the guy who hits game winners. Let's be real.
If the Ohio State's relying on kicks to win football games, we have way bigger problems next year. Way bigger.
And then it's an even playing field now. Anyway,
that's true. We're off the rails.
Enough of our bad takes. But so again, it's just a thought. I know people are going to hate it.
Not a bad thought. It's not a bad thought.
I know people are going to hate it, but,
it's not bad.
Is what it is. Speaking of candidates that aren't getting the job, Tommy Rees is following Kevin Stefanski to Atlanta. That was some news that dropped on Wednesday. Not a surprise. This was kind of expected after he didn't get a second interview with the Browns. What I will say about this is the biggest indictment that there will be on Andrew Berry next year is if Kevin Stefanski doubles down on like however many people from Cleveland he brings with him on his staff. We know he's brought Bill Callahan's back.
Oh, that one hurt.
Back with them after everyone got fired in Tennessee. He's bringing him back out to be his O-line coach in Atlanta. So if Kevin Stefanski doubles down on like this staff, these guys, and goes and has success in Atlanta, and they're winning a bunch of games next year with a more talented offensive roster, that's going to be a bad look for Andrew Berry because it's going to look like, well, the issue was what we all thought the issue was, in that you didn't give Kevin Stefanski enough weapons.
Yeah, it's a scary world. The Bill Callahan one, that one hurt a lot to see because it was like, hey, when he left was like the start of the end, right? Because he left after 23. And
the start of the end.
It was the beginning of the end, and it was like, oh yeah. Then the offensive line fell off a cliff. Then Nick Chubb broke his leg. We're firing everybody, and we're back to the bottom of the world. But it was like very hard to see his name pop up and be like, oh man, he's getting the band back together. And then he goes Tommy Reese, and it's like, oh boy, like this is.
I will say though, it's funny how quickly Browns fans like threw Tommy Reese in the trash. Tommy Reese was like, oh yeah, we love this guy. He's like an up and coming name, and blah blah blah. And then the second that Grant Udinski started talking X's and O's on social media,
Tommy Reese doesn't know anything.
They're like, Tommy Reese, give me Grant Udinski.
It's
give me Johnny Manziel light.
Yeah,
that's
dude.
Like.
Oh my god. The take.
He looks like Johnny Manziel. If Johnny Manziel actually studied the iPad.
Yeah.
So
what's up, Nina Kimes? Yeah, good take. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's there's going to be a lot of that. There's going to be a lot of that, that direct comparison. But he's got his hands, he's got his work cut out for him down there. I mean, Penix is a project. You're going to lose Kyle Pitts. We know how much he loves tight ends, but it's going to be tough. But he's obviously got Bijan, he's got Drake London, and some others. So he's going to have to kind of figure out how to balance all that. But yeah, him getting his crew together down there, along with Matt Ryan and all those guys. Like, I think the vibes down in Atlanta are probably pretty high right now because I think they're having a little bit of a staff there.
Well, the vibes are also very high for Baker Mayfield.
Oh, baby.
About what's going on. Because in the aftermath of Kevin Stefanski getting that job, I honestly thought this was a fake tweet. I thought
it was fake.
No way this is real. This is AI. This is Photoshop. But essentially somebody, who is this guy? This is a Falcons beat writer who wrote a story about, what led to Kevin Stefanski failing in Cleveland. And so he tweeted, Kevin Stefanski had a dumpster fire at quarterback in Cleveland. Baker Mayfield and Deshaun Watson failed, which started a chain reaction of 11 other starting quarterbacks. QB Shedeur Sanders closed out last season with 7 starts. And Baker Mayfield quote tweeted this tweet and said, failed is quite the reach, pal. Still waiting on a text/call from him after I got shipped off like a piece of garbage. Can't wait to see you twice a year, coach. So listen, Cleveland, this is like a Cleveland adjacent topic because it's not really happening with anybody that's involved in Cleveland anymore. So we're just kind of sitting here like eating our popcorn like, oh, okay. That escalated quickly.
Wow.
I'll say this, my take about Browns Falcons week 1 out the window. It's gone. It's got to be Falcons Bucks now.
It's Falcons Bucks, dude.
Falcons Bucks week 1 because you got to get the Baker versus Stefanski thing because the week 1's all about storylines. So I'll say that, but I don't know, man. Like, there's so many different. I don't want to like spend too much time on this before we get out of here, but like, there's just so many different angles you can take this.
So many different ones.
Where it's like, because there's the people who are like defending Baker, and then there's people who are defending Stefanski, and there's people who are saying like you were part. I guess my ultimate thing is like, why does Kevin Stefanski owe you a text after you guys went your separate ways? Like, I know that it's a big fraternity and people sometimes stay in touch, but like, why does he owe that to you? And secondly, Baker talked about how like he needed that to change and all that. And then it all just came full circle with him just doing the exact shit that he was doing that got him out of Cleveland in the first place.
That's where I landed on it. It was like, wait. We just spent, how long has it been? 4 years since he was here? 5 years?
2022 was the Deshaun trade, right?
Okay, so is that?
Am I right about that?
Yeah, so it would have been the 2021 season was when Baker got hurt, and that was that Pittsburgh game, and then they traded him away in 2022 after that. Yeah. So it was that 2022 offseason. But like, We spent all this time
March of
saying
2022.
Like, we spent all this time saying like, all right, you just had to mature and like grow up and all this stuff. I'm like, that's a 14-year-old tweet right there, dude. Like that's what a teenager would do. That's what a teenager would do.
Like Stefanski looks better in all this.
And it's like, what do you mean, dude? Like, it was a bad breakup. Everyone saw it. Everybody saw it. You guys didn't like each other. He didn't like you. You didn't like him. It needed to change.
Like Mike Florio wrote like a think piece on, Baker Mayfield exposed beef between him and Stefanski that we previously didn't know about. And I was like, where the fuck?
Everybody knew about it.
Everybody knew about it. Like everybody in Cleveland knew that this was a thing. He threw Kevin under the bus after their last game about like the game plan and protecting him against the Steelers that one game. Like everybody knew that this was going on, and it's why they split. Like so, but you're right. It is like a 14-year-old tweet, and that's why it's funny to me because it's like he spent so much time since then talking about how like I've matured and I've gotten better, and you know I needed that experience to like the man that I am. And, you know, the Browns, you know, trying to prove the Browns wrong for like moving on from and all these things. But then like you're out there tweeting that and it's like, this is exactly this. Like it brought us all full circle back to this is why you're not here anymore because they were done putting up with this. And I'm not saying I still stand by what I said earlier this year, where it's like if Stefanski had been the coach that drafted Baker, I think they would have worked through it because all these other teams like Baker's hardly the first quarterback that's like brash and, you know, opinionated and like tweets things and whatever. Like, you know, I mean, like, look at like Joe Burrow's out here holding the organization's feet to the fire all the time. Nobody cares about that. Like, you know, they just kind of bend to his they bend to his whim. So like but if Kevin Stefanski had drafted Baker, I think they would have made it work. I still stand by that because it would have been like, this is the guy I'm tying myself to. I have to. But you know, at the same time, it's not a surprise that like
it's crazy.
This is who he is. Like this is why it didn't work.
If you're watching our show, you probably are a social media person. I texted you the Baker Mayfield cycle where it's like get criticized, get a chip on my shoulder, play great, or beat an inferior opponent, talk shit, criticize, play like shit, get criticized, and then it goes in a circle. He's in the chip on my shoulder mode right now, and he'll come out. And that's why week 1 for him would be incredible because he plays great early. The best tweet I saw, I'm very vocal on our show about my feelings towards Baker. I'm not a fan anymore. Used to be a big fan, not a fan anymore. But the tweet I saw was like, bro, you lost to Quinn Ewers in your last game this year. You got bigger problems.
Well, it's funny because he's honestly in the same place he was at the end of things with Cleveland. Contract is coming up. He's trying to earn an extension.
Yes.
And he's doing all this stuff again. I mean, I don't know. Here's one thing I'll also add. Does Stefanski leaving mean like Browns fans can finally just like
let the beef go?
No, like I guess kind of, but like can they just kind of enjoy Baker now? Like does Baker have to hate Cleveland still? Like, can it now be like this? Remember when we were together and like think about what we could have done? Like, can it be almost? We weren't the problem. It was the other guy. Can it be like romanticized now? Because he's like, you know, because it's like that whole thing. Like, I will say like him play because I was thinking the reason I say that is because I was thinking about this. Like Baker versus the Browns it doesn't feel like it's as big of a deal as it was when Kevin was still here. Like when Kevin was still here, it was like, oh, this is the coach that got rid of him and like they were beefing with each other. And we know what he did when him and Hugh Jackson were beefing when he saw Hugh Jackson in Cincinnati later that season. Like, you know, he I'm sure he's going to do that with Stefanski in Atlanta, but like, does it matter as much when it's just Cleveland, the place he used to play?
He's getting a standing O. He's getting a standing O when they are now. I don't know.
That game's in Tampa, so
Tampa. Yeah, I don't know, man. I won't be on that side of the fence. That all I can speak for is myself.
You've already burnt your Baker jerseys at this point. They're all gone.
Years ago.
Remember when he was an MVP candidate at one point this season? Anyway. All right. This has been a fun show. We covered a lot of tracks, covered a lot of bases. We appreciate you sticking around to hang out with us if you stuck it through the whole show. Just a reminder, head to brownsroundtable.com for all the latest news and info on the Cleveland Browns. I'm going to read verbatim Just scroll at the bottom of the page. The QR code at the top of the page. Also helpful if you want to scan that so you can head straight there. Be part of the space, join the community, join our posts, all those great things. And make sure you also subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're not subscribed already, because we got plenty of content like this. When press conferences happen, we got you covered there. And throughout the offseason, we want to keep ramping things up and doing as much content as we can over here as well. So appreciate you guys coming to hang out with us. Appreciate you participating in the conversations the best you could. All the way till the end where we got to talk about Baker and Kevin Stefanski still beefing. So until next time, thanks for watching and keep on following along with all things Cleveland Browns with BrownsRoundtable.com.